Ah, so close. Hey guys, man, it's 9132, and I'm the Robot Wars Guru. I think it's fair to say that Robot Wars definitely did the job for a lot of us. Sure, some uncultured pillocks are upset that they had safety links, and others think that seeing generic box versus generic wedge from the classic BattleBots days was better, but those people are idiots. Still, despite the destruction and great fights that Robot Wars did give us, there are still several things that we never got to see on the show. Fans have always had dream battles that never happened, or a robot that they wished won a trophy but never did. And let's not forget big moments that sounded great on paper, but never took place. Well, today I'm going to vent my own frustrations and list the top 10 things I wish we saw on Robot Wars. And no, Razor vs Hypnodisc will not be on the list. It's just way too obvious. Also, I'm one of the few people in the world who thinks that fight will be a complete and utter dud. So, sit back and relax as I go over the top 10 things I wish happened on Robot Wars. Number 10. Seeds in the reboot. The reboot of Robot Wars has suffered from mixed reactions over the last few years. I personally think it was pretty damn good, but had a few big flaws. One of those was a lack of seeds. Seeding robots in Robot Wars was, in my opinion, one of the best things that the classic series did. It split up the favourites, allowed audiences to know exactly how much potential the robot had, and allowed upsets to mean a lot more. All of these things are what the reboot heavily lacked in my opinion. When Bigger Brother got flipped out in round 2 of Series 7, it meant something because it was the 4th seed losing so early. Concussion losing to Nuts 2 was great, but lacked any major kick of excitement because it wasn't seeded, thus it didn't feel like as much of a big deal. But the main issue with the reboot was returning grand finalists being placed in the same heats. I thought Series 9 was bad enough having the returning champions and runner-up in Heat 5, but then they really flipped their shit and had 3 of the returning 5 grand finalists from Series 9 in Heat 2 of Series 10. What were they smoking? This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Seedings would have split up all the favourites into their respective heats and evened the playing field. There's a reason the main complaint about Series 3 is that there was no seeds. It led to dud heats like Heats P and L, whilst other heats were so stacked that many potential Heat finalists lost in round 1. And that's the exact same issue the reboot had. Number 9. More heats in the reboot. 5 heats. That's all we got in each series of the reboot. 5 pissing heats. To put that into perspective, Series 5 had the exact same amount of episodes as all 3 reboot series combined, not counting the specials of course. I understand Series 8 only having 5 heats. The show had only just returned and they were testing the waters. I also, to an extent, understand Series 9 only having 5 heats because they were still testing the waters somewhat and they wanted to make sure what they had was concrete. But for Series 10 to also have 5 heats and less robots than the previous 2 series is just ridiculous. I get that it's an expensive show to run, but they've invested more money into other much worse shows that have had longer runs. They also pissed money against the wall for 4 special episodes that were not really worth it. I'd rather have seen some extra main series heats over the World Series episodes we got, thanks. I'm not saying go overboard, but surely they could have bumped it up to 8 heats, 1 semi-final and a final. That's 10 episodes. That was doable, surely. The thing that made the classic series so good was that it felt like a grand adventure, waiting anxiously week after week to see the machines smash each other up for a spot in the top 12 or 16 and making predictions with your friends at school. But the sheer lack of episodes in the reboot meant that by the time you were getting heavily invested, it was already over. Number 8. Gemini and the Annihilator. Gemini is an odd robot for me. I love and respect the engineering and the originality that it brought to the table, its fights were usually good and the machine was definitely memorable. But for some reason, I don't really like it all that much. It's probably because it shat the bed more times than a resident of my local retirement home. And one of the worst instances of this was its mayhem fight with Napalm. Oh, and the spider was there too, I guess. This seemed like a sure deal. Throw Gemini in the arena with 2, to be frank, crap robots and guarantee Gemini a place in the second Annihilator. But of course, the Napalm team had snorted coke off of a leprechaun's hat that day and bullshitted their way through after Gemini stranded itself. What a shame! What's even worse is that Napalm was clearly barely able to work in said Annihilator, being pushed into the arena by RefBot. If Bulldog Breed and Atomic had to pull out and were easily replaceable, why couldn't Napalm be replaced by Gemini? It would have added a bit more fun to an Annihilator that was, as far as production is concerned, a complete and utter shambles. It's just a shame we didn't get to see Gemini joining in with the clusterfuck we know as the Annihilator, especially considering its crazy antics were great for those kind of battles. Number 7. A new house robot in the reboot. When Robot Wars returned, fans were a bit gutted that house robots such as Sergeant Bash and Growler didn't return. I was definitely one of those people, but I think it made sense in the long run. By this time, the house robots were almost an unnecessary thing, only brought back to appease the hardcore old school boomer fans like myself. However, one thing I would have loved to have seen is a new house robot built specifically for the reboot. Not just an upgraded Growler or Cassius Chrome, but a brand new, never before seen house robot. It would have made the reboot stand out a little bit more, and in my opinion would have managed to get fans guessing what it could be, getting the excitement and attention the reboot desperately needed. Number 6. A robot successfully escaped the pit. Would it be fair? In my opinion, no. As far as I'm concerned, once you're in, you're out, if that makes sense. But it still would have been pretty cool to see it happen. The pit is easily the most famous and most popular arena hazard in Robot Wars, with both classic and reboot series having different chants from the crowd directed towards it. The visual of seeing a robot fall into a hole and surrounded by plumes of smoke is one that kept many viewers' eyes glued to the screen. So seeing a robot escape it would get people talking. Much like how everyone spoke about Chaos 2 for getting the first Uta, or Firestorm for managing to flip Mr. Psycho. Hell, even Apollo got such attention when managing to flip the even heavier house robots. Sadly though, it never happened, even in the reboot with more powerful flippers than ever before and a much bigger pit allowing more room to do so. Cassius 2 was the closest we had to this, claiming they could launch themselves out of the pit using their spike, but sadly we never saw it live up to its claim. Number 5. A Series 7 Tag Team Tournament. I've made no secret of the fact that the Tag Team Terror is my favourite side event from Robot Wars. Seeing the robots breaking the rules and the random pairings duke it out was always good fun. Seeing the great teamwork was also really nice, and hearing as to why the robots had paired up was always a good listen. So you can imagine my disappointment when in Series 7 we got a shite Annihilator, a shite All-Stars, and no Tag Team Terror. I feel it was a missed opportunity because with such a huge lack of All-Stars returning for Series 7, the producers had a chance to show off some of the newer faces here. Even better, some of the few returning veterans that lost early could have also had a second chance to shine, such as Disco Inferno, Vader, and Barbarous. Bulldog Breed and Robo Chicken could return to defend their title, and it would be nice to see previous runners-up Hydra and Barbaric Response team up again considering their unfortunate early losses in this series. There could have even been some international tag teams, like the German robots or the Dutch machines teaming up. The possibilities are endless, and I think it's a crying shame we didn't get to see one last Tag Team Terror tournament. Number 4. A house robot being flipped out of the arena. The robot that managed to bag this scalp would go down in history as a legend. There's just no doubt about it. The idea of flipping a house robot over was mad enough, so sending one over the wall would have been iconic and would have been one of the best moments in the show's history, along with Chaos 2 scoring the first Uta, Wheelie Big Cheese giving Axel flying lessons, and Mr. Psycho taking a tumble. And it nearly happened! Twice! The first was in the Flipper Frenzy when every robot decided to murder Sergeant Bash. Look how close this was! The second was when Tornado fought against Chaos 2 in a fight for the challenge belt, where Chaos 2 got this mighty flip on Shunt. Again, look how close this was. However, if any robot was going to do it, it would have probably been Gravity. Just look at how easily it barrel rolled Shunt here. Imagine if that was closer to the sidewall. If only it was. Number 3. All the cancelled Series 3 events. Now I'm going to keep this brief because I actually plan on making another video on this whole debacle, but it's still worth mentioning here. The producers were very optimistic and, dare I say, ambitious when it came to filming the third series of the show. Not only did they plan on having 16 heats, a World Championship and an International League Championship, but they also planned on much more. We were also meant to get a Featherweight Championship, a Middleweight Championship, a Lightweight Championship, a Super Heavyweight Championship, and a Tag Team Terror Championship, as well as trial-based events such as a bigger pinball event, a bigger football competition, and even a sumo event. This would have certainly made Series 3 the biggest series of the lot as they entered a do-or-die mentality. And it would have been bloody awesome. Sadly, a spiky robot went crazy and introduced a production crew member, which led to a delay in filming and thus the cancellation of many events. Number 2. A War of the Weapons tournament. Ever wondered what the ultimate weapon type is? Well, with a tournament like this, we would get an answer to that question. Imagine a competition where the best robots of each weapon type battled it out to decide what the ultimate weapon choice was. You could even have qualifiers where several flipper robots fought for the right to represent flippers. In fact, this is something I wanted to see so much that it's actually going to be a competition in Cataclysm 2, blatant plugging for the win. I just feel it would have been really cool to see, especially in Series 7 where they had the Axe Attack, Crusher Crunch Up and Spin City events. Would it have hurt them to give us a Flipper Frenzy and then a final between the 4 winners? Tell me you wouldn't want to see that. It would have also suited Extreme 2 as an event for mid-table robots. For example, Tiberius and Canoper could have represented the Crushers, Raging Reality and Chronic could have represented the Flippers, etc, etc, etc. Again, this is a heavily missed opportunity that was passed over for much worse ideas like the University Challenge. Woo. Number 1. A Champion of Champions. Oh come on, this shit just writes itself. Who else wanted to see a championship used to crown the best of the best? I sure did. The best thing with this concept is it's surprisingly versatile. I myself alone have managed to figure out 3 potential ways this could have been done. The first is a Champions Annihilator, pitting all 6 of the Classic Series champions against one another. Now, I know this is extremely unlikely, considering Roadblock and even its successor Beast Bombing were long retired by the time Typhoon raised the trophy high, but I can still dream that the team returned with an updated Roadblock for one last laugh. Razor or Tornado would most likely be the victors though, simply because the rest don't really do well in crowded situations. Another way they could have done it was at the end of Extreme 2, with a tournament pitting all the winners of the side events of that series, plus the reigning Grand Champions and World Champions against each other. Imagine how much fun that would be! And of course, my personal favourite, a 4-way melee between the 4 domestic Robot Wars champions, Tornado of the UK, Panzer Mark IV of the US, Pulverizer of the Netherlands, and Black Hole of Germany. That would be a great fight. Just the idea of seeing the best of the best battling it out for the ultimate bragging right is awesome, and would work so well in my opinion. Many other sports have similar championships, such as the Champions League in football and the European Rugby Champions Cup in rugby. In fact, it's such a wonderful concept, I'm really considering having such a tournament in RWA. What do you guys think? Would you like to see that? And that's it for this list and this video. Do you agree with me or do you think I'm being a Burk? What do you wish we saw but never did? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, I've been Answer9132, Robot Wars Guru, and I'll see you next time.